COE champion over everything.
Champion over everything.
So Dre, man, you know you serve as my big brother. You've been my big brother for a number of years. But even before that, you know, our history of just seeing you being influential in the community, but most important, like the family side of who Dre Heath was. And I remember being back in the old building for West Point. Like you said, when you were a deacon during that particular time period. And I know you got two beautiful girls. Your son just got married. Yeah. Man, and for us, a lot of times we don't see where our families are continuing to stay together. Yeah. But I kind of want to get your viewpoint on family.
Man, I told you earlier in the interview about my family. And I gave you a glimpse of what it looks like. It's a blended family. And it's not a traditional family, my immediate family. So I've had to learn first the value of family. My daughter Caroline doesn't live with me, but I'm a father. And as a responsible person, I have to be her father. That's just the right thing to do, right? And so that means I have to sacrifice what I feel sometimes I want to do for the greater good, for my family, for my seed. I have a daughter now, my middle daughter, Alyssa. She's turned 21 last month. She's graduating college at the end of this year. And I had a conversation with her just this morning about the importance of her developing a greater sense of independence the older she gets. She's not a baby anymore, and as she grows and leaves the nest, you're going to have to do some things for yourself that your parents could do but shouldn't have to do because you're growing up, right? My son just got married about a month ago. You probably saw the pictures in the video. He had to learn that lesson. That's family. That's my son. And so as he was getting married, he saw the support of a variety of family members, and not just blood, but family, because they are family. They support us. They've been there for so long. Man, in our community, I'm speaking about the black community, man, family has to resume its importance in our community. Like, we have so many different types of families now, but sometimes, man, for our youth, especially our black men, the streets can become family. That's not always a good scenario. So I charge the men in our community that have children to be fathers. It might not be an ideal situation, but be a responsible father to your children, no matter the circumstance. I think, in my opinion, it starts there, right? We have some very strong women that are being single-parent mothers because of not just because of, but in spite of the absence of a father. But I really encourage our parents, our black parents, to be more involved in the lives of their children, those that aren't, because they are our future, and they are a reflection of their upbringing. And it's very important that we get involved in a way that helps raise them in the healthiest environment they can have, to be the best productive citizens they can be, because they matter. Their lives matter. And I just, as a father and a husband, I want to be the best I can be. Despite my past, I still can be better, right? And I've had to learn that that's possible. And I want to be an example for my kids of overcoming adversity, overcoming some things that weren't always favorable, and still being a man of integrity, a man of character. You know what I'm saying? I want to leave that legacy. So that's my message for people, especially about family.
Yeah, man. We were talking earlier, about the Fast and Furious franchise, right? And that's one of the main things. It's family, right? Being there, and not all the time will your family necessarily be blood.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be the people that are in your circle,
Mm-hmm.
right? The people that are walking you through your tough times, the people that you can trust. And as you stated, man, I think definitely in the black community, we have got to get back to that institution of family. And I remember, man, this was powerful when I heard it because you were on another podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I got to talk about grandmama.
Okay.
I got to talk about grandmama. Because I remember, I'm going to paraphrase the story. You were working, I think, at Piggly Wiggly during the time. You kind of, grandma told you to do something, you didn't do what grandma told you to do. Right. All right. Share that story, man. Because I think that's powerful because a lot of times now grandmothers doesn't look like what our grandmothers look like, right?
Right. I grew up with my grandmother for a number of years in Crystal Springs. She went blind at the age of 62. And I was around 10, 11 years old at the time. And I was voluntold to stay with grandma. And she gets accustomed to living without her sight. And I took it as an opportunity. I'm like, I'm free from my mom. I can stay out late. I can kick it, you know, as long as I keep my grades right. And so for a little while that worked. But, you know, grandma, as she became, you know, she lost her sight, her other senses increased. You know, she could hear a pin drop, you know. So if I tried to sneak in the house in the middle of the night, she could hear it and I'd catch it. Well, this one time I was working at a local grocery store, Piggly Wiggly. I don't know if they have those anymore. If they do, it's only a few left. And it was my first job. And the boss said something to me that I didn't like. He must have said something that I needed to hear and I didn't like. You know how adolescents are. And so I quit, right? I quit. I came home. I didn't tell my grandma I quit. You know, it's just that day. She got a phone call from, no, this is how. I told her I quit. She called the boss. She called up there. She called the owner, which she knew. They were around the same age, so I assumed that they knew each other growing up. And she called him and she says, I apologize for Andre. He'll be back at work tomorrow. You know, he's coming back, right? She hung up the phone. And she gave me some important tips, some important advice on doing what you say you would do, keeping your commitment, and when things aren't even the way you should, you know, you would like them to be, when things are always going your way, you still made a commitment to work. You just don't quit at the first sign of adversity. And I don't know how I told the story to Sam, but that was the message that she gave me, and she showed it by example, because she picked up the phone and told my boss, don't worry, he'll be back at work tomorrow. Like, that's not who we are. We're not quitters, and we don't do it like that. I'm sorry he did that, but you can expect him tomorrow. And the grace that he gave me to accept that, I think it meant a lot for my grandmother to call him, the respect he had for her, and for her to say, I'm sorry, he'll be back tomorrow, right? And, you know, when she got off the phone with me, she said in so many words, you going back to work tomorrow. And here's the reason why. And I'll never forget that. My grandmother taught me so many lessons, and although she was blind, she taught me so many lessons, you know, how to deal with being blind, not having your sight, and still having the courage to live life with vigor. You know, she didn't stop living. I learned a lot from her, the Lord's Prayer, Psalm 23, all types of things she taught me when I was in her household. And so when I talk about family, I don't know if grandmothers are doing that these days. You know, especially with how we're disconnected. You know, my son and my daughter didn't have the advantage of living in the same city with their grandmother, and so that might have strained that relationship or not been as involved as it could have been if we had lived in the same city. So I don't know how that works, but some people don't have grandmothers that live right around the corner, you know, like mine did. But you know, grandmothers play a very important role in their kids' lives and grandkids' lives, and I'm just grateful to have had a grandmother that lived it. You know, and she walked the talk, and wasn't always perfect. You know, nobody's perfect, but she definitely left a legacy of service, of integrity and character in all of her children and grandchildren that we still talk about today.
Family over everything.
Family over
That's it, man. Family over everything.
Family, man. It matters more. And I'm gonna say this, man. One more thing. I told you earlier that I had this complex when I was trying to or I had always a concern about what people thought about me, what people would say, your perception, your impression of me. And I always, for a while I found myself putting on airs to try to reflect what I thought you liked.
Yeah.
I was a chameleon.
Yeah.
Ugh. Just didn't know no better, man.
Yeah.
Until I had to grow up and learn that what's more important is about what your family thinks about you. Like, they're the ones you live with, or maybe not even live with, but they're the ones probably more close to you than the general public. And it matters what their opinion is than
anybody else.
Yeah, anybody else. Like, Dre, you're a good public speaker, but are you a good father? Yeah, Dre, you can recruit students to Southern Miss, but can you do this at home? Can you do this? Or are you available at home for what matters more and who matters more?
Yeah.
And I must say, man, I'm ashamed to say, but for a long time I didn't do that. I was more concerned about worldly recognition than being a good father at home. And I don't want anyone out there to make that same mistake, because especially now, man, take care of home first. It don't matter what everybody else is doing and thinking. If you don't have this right, then you're not much of a success. Yeah. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, man, when they lay me down in the grave, they ain't gonna be talking about that speech I gave in 2000 and whatever. You know, like, how good of a husband and a father was it? Yeah. That legacy that I leave, and that's what I'm focusing now more on. I wasted some time. I will admit, I wasted a lot of years pretending to be someone I wasn't for people whose opinion mattered.
Yeah. So speaking of time, and a lot of times we think as men that we gotta get out there, we gotta chase the chick.
Yeah, man.
And I feel, over my last few years, you know my story. I walked away from money.
Yeah.
Because, my dad worked all the time. My dad was there physically in the house with us. He loved on us. He showed us how to become men.
That's real good.
But the drawback was Daddy worked all the time, and I didn't want to do that to my kids. And how important do you think it is to have a balance between the financials and the time?
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
I definitely get what you're saying, and like I said, it's admirable that your dad was there for you and instilled principles in you, but it came at a cost. Because sometimes he, like you just said, most of the time he was at work. I think that was even an example. His work ethic was an example to learn from. You, as the head of your household, as the father, as the husband, are responsible to support, protect, and provide for your family. That's your responsibility as a responsible adult. That is on you. And God honors that. And I believe He'll give you what you need if you do it the right way to support your family. But He also wants us to live abundantly, right? I don't doubt that God wants us to have things, but in their proper place. See, I've learned this myself. It's when I switch my priorities up and I put money over God, or I put possessions, I put influence, I put popularity above God. And when that misalignment happens, that's when trouble happens. Right? So He says, put no other God before me. You can't serve two masters. You're going to love one, hate the other. You can't serve both God and money. Right? What's today all about? Money. Accumulation of wealth and possession. People want to show what they have and what they're driving, what they live in. And that's all right. Okay, cool. What does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul?
Yeah.
Right? Jeff Bezos just shot into space a few days ago.
Yeah.
He's a billionaire.
Yeah.
He comes back down and he's cracking jokes about the customers and the employees that helped fund it. I really feel bad about what he said, because that just shows his character. Because he's staking his success on the backs of the people that he serves. Yeah, you made $1 billion, but that $1 billion can be done. You can use that money in different ways to serve so many other people. But you went to space. I understand. You know, it's your toys, your money. You can do what you want to. But man, it's just an example of the way the world is now. We're so money hungry. Everything's about money, 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 and it's so temporary. And God has all the riches that we could ever want, and He doesn't even prioritize money as the main thing to get. He says wisdom.
Wisdom.
He said get the chief thing is get wisdom. Fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Not and then everything else, get wisdom, get understanding. Solomon himself, he said, God said, hey, whatever you want, anything you can have it, just ask. And he says, I want wisdom. He said, I'm gonna give you wisdom and all that stuff.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So, man, that's what I want. Is the older I get, I want to get wisdom. Wisdom is knowing how to do the right thing in the right situation, the best thing in the right in the situation, any situation. Yeah. How you handle it wisely. That comes from God. And so, man, I want wisdom. I don't make as much money as I made when I was at Southern Miss, but I'm 10 times happier. I'm 10 times healthier. I'm 10 times better.
Yeah.
And see, this is just a stepping stone to where He is going to take me.
Yeah.
Because if I can handle a little, He can trust me with much.
That's it.
So, yeah, Dre, I'm going to see how you handle what you have right now. And when I can trust you with that, watch out.
That's it.
Because I want you to have more, but I want you to be able to handle more. Shame on me if I give you more and you can't handle it. Shame on you if you give your son or daughter too much candy. They want some candy. You can have a little candy, but you know what? You can have a whole bowl. They eat the whole bowl and they're sick. That's your fault.
Yeah. Yep.
They liked it, but you knew they couldn't handle all that candy. You knew that. They shouldn't have it all. Yeah. So God said, can I trust you with this, Dre? Can you prioritize me enough to put things in the right perspective? And when I see that I can, I'll grow you. And see, that's just for me. Some people that aren't believers, aren't Christians, aren't devout, aren't trying to be disciple, aren't trying to grow. Yeah, money. Yeah, show me your money. And I think the thing now is they do like this because they got the racks of money. And they show you, or they holding it up like this. And I'm like, wow, man, your life is just that long. And that's what your focus is on. Something that's limited, something that's temporary.
That can go in the snap.
In the snap. Tomorrow's not even promised. Man, I'm just grateful God's giving me growth. And man, that ain't the end goal. That's not a measure of success of how much money you have. Yes, you want to leave a legacy to your kids. Yes, you don't want them to struggle like you did. Yes, you want to leave an inheritance. Yes, you want them to have something they can build on. That's great. God honors that too. But when it's out of alignment, when you want that more than you want God, then it's not going to work. It will never work. Yeah. And even people think that it's work. It's not. It's not, man. God's rules, His ways, has this thing set up. You can't refute them. You can't disobey them. It's just, you're gonna suffer the consequences of it. So I had to learn the hard way. So right now, where I am right now, I'm putting things in order. It takes courage, and I always feel good, and I always get it right, but I'm still striving.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
and I'm doing it no matter what y'all think.
That's it. That's it, bro. That's it. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Once again, thank you for tuning in to COE, Champion Over Everything. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. COE, we holding it down. 1.